they always said I'm wrong, but what they doing today? I think they want me gone, but I ain't going away. They told me I was wrong, but look at my ass today. Da 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 da.
Hey, what's up everybody? Hello on TRST, on YouTube, as well as online, Facebook, Twitter, wherever. What's good on the internet? What's good in life? What's good in sport? I'm Akiem, aka Li495, welcoming you once again to another weekend edition of our weekend recap show, which has turned into a weekend NFL show, 10 minutes on the clock. So welcome once again. So before I get into my predictions for week 4, you know the protocol by now. If you've been watching these 10 minutes on the clock videos for the past 3 weeks, I go into what happened on Thursday Night Football. And last week we had Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens at the M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, and a lot of attention, of course, was delivered to this game because it was the first game with the return of the regular referees. The NFL and the NFL Referees Association wound up making a deal just in time for these original referees to be able to officiate the game on Thursday Night Football with Cleveland and Baltimore. So everybody in the NFL fandom, I guess you can say probably myself included, was probably going, "Yay, the real refs are back! Get these bums out of here!" But you know what? After a call didn't go the Ravens' way in that game, it didn't take long for the Baltimore faithful at the M&T Bank Stadium in the nest, if you will, to start booing the regular officials. But you know what? At least we're booing officials if we are going to boo. At least we're booing officials now that actually have experience when it comes to officiating games, and we aren't actually booing referees that have experience, that are probably more qualified to be Playboy photographers in the lingerie football league. So at least there's a step up. At least we know what we're getting right now when we get when it comes to NFL games, and when it comes to officiating NFL games. Now all of a sudden, and as far as the game itself went, I actually thought, probably like many people, that this was going to be a blowout, that the Ravens were going to, the Ravens were favored by 2 touchdowns going into the game. I thought it was probably going to be somewhere like a 3-touchdown point spread, and Flacco would probably throw for somewhere around 300 some odd yards. That didn't turn out to be the case, because the Cleveland Browns defense actually kept them in that game for basically the entire game. It was very competitive. Both offenses wound up struggling for the most part. It was a defensive struggle. Both defenses showed up. You know Baltimore's was going to show up. Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, they always show up ready to play. But Cleveland's defense, believe it or not, actually kept the Ravens' offense on their toes, and they actually showed up. So they kept it competitive, and everybody was also putting a lot of attention on Brandon Weeden, their rookie quarterback for the Browns, who is actually, believe it or not, older than Joe Flacco. And many, myself included, already have Joe Flacco being as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But actually, Brandon Weeden, believe it or not, for a quote-unquote rookie, is actually older than Joe Flacco. And in that first game against the Eagles, when he threw all those interceptions, everybody was already starting to pronounce him as a bust. I guess I was too. But he's really showed up in these last few games that he's played now. So even though Cleveland is 0-4, and considering that they have a very young team that they're trying to build around, it seems like to me that he's starting to make strides into the right direction. And they're not going to have a winning season this year, of course, but at least he's showing promise, and at least it looks like that, at least from his particular standpoint, that they are going into the right direction. Perhaps they would have won that game maybe if Greg Little didn't drop that pass into the end zone. But to be fair to Greg Little, that was where he was, it was being thrown, it was thrown right at him, but he really had to, exert himself and really hyperextend himself almost to really make that catch, because it's almost like he had to go like this. But NFL receivers are able to make that catch, so perhaps Greg Little maybe should have been able to make that catch, even though it would have been very difficult in the end zone to begin with. So definitely, Baltimore defeated Cleveland by a final score of 23-16, but definitely not by the score that many had predicted that they would indeed beat them by. So on to my Week 4 picks, and a first game on the schedule: Atlanta at home versus the Carolina Panthers. I like the Falcons in that one. Patriots going on the road to take on the Buffalo Bills. I like New England in that one. Texans and the Titans at Reliance Stadium in Houston. Give me the Houston Texans in that one. Chargers Chiefs. That's a divisional rival matchup, of course. Chargers coming off of a butt kicking at the hands of the Atlanta Falcons, and of course Kansas City. They're probably riding with some momentum with that win that they got, that come from behind win that they got with the New Orleans Saints. And I actually like, believe it or not, I actually like Kansas City in an upset. So that's one of my upset picks this week. Going with Kansas City over San Diego. Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. I like the Lions to win that one. The Seattle Seahawks and the St. Louis Rams. Of course, we saw their defense on parade in that Seattle's, that is. Of course, we saw Seattle's defense on parade against the Green Bay Packers, and the fact that they were able to sack Aaron Rodgers 8 times on Monday Night Football. For everybody that's talking about the Arizona Cardinals defense, they're 3-0, and I'm going to get to them a little bit, of course. But Seattle's is pretty impressive themselves. So I like Seattle to beat the St. Louis Rams in St. Louis. 49ers going to the Meadowlands to take on the Jets. I think the 49ers will respond once again from getting their butts whooped by the Minnesota Vikings and Christian Ponder. I don't think Mark Sanchez is going to do the same thing that Christian Ponder did. So I like the 49ers to beat the New York Jets. Dolphins and Cardinals. That's a virtual bye week at this point for the Arizona Cardinals. I like Arizona in that one. Bengals Jaguars. The Bengals, after not really showing up on Monday Night Football, that first game against, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Baltimore. But they I guess they've been in the same position, I guess, that the Cleveland Browns have been. They've had good games the last 2 weeks as well. I like Cincinnati over the Jacksonville Jaguars, albeit the game is in Jacksonville. Raiders Broncos. That's going to be actually another one of my upset picks, believe it or not. I actually like the Raiders in that one to beat the Denver Broncos. They beat Pittsburgh last week, but via a field goal. So I actually am going with the Oakland Raiders. I'm going with a lot of upsets. You can probably tell. Another upset pick, Oakland over Denver. Saints and Packers. There's a lot that talk about the Saints. Of course, the Saints are coming off that loss against the Kansas City Chiefs, and of course we know what happened at this point to the Green Bay Packers on Monday Night Football. Simultaneous possession. Jennings and Golden Tate. Huh? Come again? I don't think so. That was not simultaneous possession. And at this point, I like Green Bay over New Orleans because, I picked the Saints the last 3 weeks, but the Saints defense is just awful. There's a reason why I've written about them the last 3 weeks. Everybody in New Orleans is calling for Steve Spagnuolo's job after he was once one of the most sought-after defensive coordinators for when teams were contacting defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators and other head coaches for head coaching jobs. Spagnuolo was one of the most sought-after guys a few years ago. Now all of a sudden he's mud right now in New Orleans right now. So I have no confidence anymore as far as that Saints defense is concerned. I like Green Bay. Tampa Bay and Washington. I think Washington is going to respond. I think Washington's going to win that one to even their record at 2-2. Giants, Eagles once again. Same story with the Eagles. They got to cut back on the turnovers somehow, some way. I believe they've thrown 12 turnovers right now. With Michael Vick in that offensive line right now. I like New York going into the Link and beating the Philadelphia Eagles. And Bears Cowboys on Monday Night Football. Give me the boys at Cowboys Stadium at home in Arlington against the Chicago Bears. So to run down just my picks, just going on right now down the line: Atlanta over Carolina, New England over Buffalo, Texans over the Titans, Chiefs over the Chargers, the Lions over the Minnesota Vikings, the Seahawks over the St. Louis Rams, 49ers over the Jets, Cardinals over the Dolphins, Bengals over the Jaguars, Raiders over the Broncos, Packers over the Saints, Redskins over the Buccaneers, Giants over the Eagles, Cowboys over the Chicago Bears. So that's it. That's your 10 minutes on the clock. Week 4 edition. I guess you can tell I didn't get to do my ode to the replacement referees. Who knows? Maybe we'll see them down the line. Maybe at your local laundromat, or who knows? Or maybe they'll go back to officiating lingerie football league games. Or maybe they'll just, like I said, if they're going to go ahead and officiate lingerie football league games, maybe they'll just go ahead and do a job that's more qualified for them, i.e. just become photographers for Playboy or FHM or something like that. So rate, comment, react, reply, add, subscribe. Look forward to reading your comments as always. I'm just one guy talking about sports on The Real Sports Talk. This has been 10 minutes on the clock. Let's enjoy week 4. See you on the internet someplace.
Just a little bit around the corner from fear. Be there by next year, where I'm going.